Hi, I'm Justin Crosby and welcome to our highlight show rounding up the best content from day 3 of our MIPCOM live streaming show from the Palais de Festival in Cannes. First up, we have Matt Campion and Peter Cowley from UK indie Spirit Studios on how indies can survive the TV industry apocalypse. Then we have an exclusive interview with Guns N' Roses guitar legend Slash on his role as executive producer on new Paramount Plus ITV Studios drama, The Crow Girl. Thanks to our partner MIPCOM and our sponsors ITV Studios and Shooting in Spain, a brand of iSex Invest in Spain, for making these shows possible. I hope you enjoy the show. Peter, Matt, how are you doing?
We're great.
Good to have you on the show.
Yeah, it's our first time back at MIP for 5 years, I think.
Right. Okay. Interesting. Now, we're going to talk all about your business. We're going to talk about some of the recent developments. But also, maybe a jumping off point is a conversation we had both with Guy Bisson at Ampere Analysis, but also Evan Shapiro, who was on the show yesterday, and he was talking about the media apocalypse and this death of commissioning and, you know, what maybe the new TV industry landscape is going to look like. So, but first of all, tell us about Spirit, because you two have worked together, haven't you, since Endemol Shine days, is that right?
Yeah, well, even before the Shine bit got added to Endemol, we worked together, 16, 17 years ago, as, I guess, digital, or in those days they called it interactive media, grew out of television production companies like Endemol to extend their IP into, firstly, digital spaces. Obviously, shows like Big Brother were the pioneers of some of that, and latterly into social. And obviously now those shows go everywhere around the world, on every platform. And I guess that's what's coming out of the research, isn't it? That audiences are choosing the places they want to watch the content as it gets distributed everywhere.
Yeah, that's right. And I think the trick is going to be making sure your content is in the places where people are watching, rather than the gatekeepers demanding people come to watch them on whatever channel or network they're on.
Absolutely. And I think, Matt and I, from day one, felt that the next generation producer model needed to be good at both the B2B, the traditional side of selling to commissioners, as still exists, but absolutely research is showing that it's changing, but also to go direct to the consumer. Obviously, platforms like YouTube have done that for years. Now podcasts, a big part of our business at Spirit, are more B2C focused. So that aspect of not only being a good producer, but understanding the audience, the data, and marketing it, let alone making the money out of it, is really important to our business model. So that mix of B2B, great relationships with broadcasters, distributors, brands, and the B2C, and understanding their changes, is at the core of what we do.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I'm gonna come back to data in a minute, because data is kind of a scary thing to a creative producer. I think it's not something that they're necessarily comfortable with, and they think spreadsheets. I don't know. I do, but so give us an idea of what you do then, Matt, at Spirit Studios, because I know you work in branded content and some other areas. So give us a sense of what sort of content you produce.
First of all, we don't make content. We make content with Spirit. Just had to get a little tagline in there. We run 4 studios. So we make television, we make podcasts, all video based. We make branded content, branded entertainment, and then we also own and operate a couple of our own social media platforms. And but we have this vision that actually, I think, to what you said at the beginning, which is creating content for audiences where they want it. That is very much our belief. So as a modern day producer, in order to survive and actually thrive, you've got to be able to create IP that can split across those studios. So a good example of that is we might bring in a factual show. In fact, we've got one that we're working on at the moment, a show called, started out as a Channel 4 digital documentary series, 10-minute episodes. We made 10 of them for Channel 4's YouTube channel. We then have been turning that into a podcast, and we are now selling that as a long-form TV series, which is looking very promising. So you take one piece of IP, and then you monetize it in different ways. And I think for us in particular, the industry is. I can see that there's a lot of worry and a lot of change and a lot of pessimism in the industry at the moment. But for us, this is exactly why we set up in the first place. So for us, it's actually an exciting time. I kind of there's a sort of a real energy in our business at the moment to be able to create ideas and know that we will get them made, because we're finding different routes to market than the traditional route.
Yeah, yeah. Or you're making them yourself, or you're working with other commissioners in different ways to do that. So we'll come back to that in a second. So Peter, how long's it taken you to get to this point? Because I guess any traditional indie who are used to working in the UK for Channel 4 or BBC or Channel 5, for example, and relying on their factual commissions coming from those broadcasters, they may be looking at the digital first world thinking, we better get our skates on. We better, better move into this market. First of all, how long's it taken you to get to the position where you are now? And secondly, is it too late, do you think, for other indies to join the digital first revolution?
Well, I think, like all entrepreneurs, we always worry whether we were too early to market. We've been going over 10 years now, and we began with that model of extending existing TV IP into digital and social spaces, and then sort of pivoted into creating our own IP for all of those, as Matt has so eloquently described. I would say it's not too late for others to follow, but you do need to get your skates on. I think really interesting news in the press the last couple of weeks. ITV set up a new digital label, Zoo 55. Some of their TV studios are closing down at the same time or being absorbed into the rest of ITV Studios. So for a company as big as ITV, and obviously they're quite a cautious broadcaster compared to a Channel 4 or BBC, who are funded slightly differently. For them to do it, we are absolutely at the tipping point. Maybe slightly beyond the tipping point, and that's good business for ITV in many ways. But I think producers do need to look at this area. They can't do everything we've done. We've spent 10 years sort of building that up. But beginning to look into diversified revenue streams, even beyond the distributor-led ones that most producers will have. But it is hard, and we know it's hard for traditional producers to move out that B2B model of dealing with a commissioner or a distributor into the other areas of even branded content, which is different again, let alone the B2C stuff. But I think they've all got to begin looking at these new revenue streams and routes to market for their ideas for them to survive, because the audience decides. We've seen YouTube stats from stats that have been on this show here describe that YouTube's bigger than telly now, particularly in the UK, but worldwide. YouTube's changing their UI on their app so you can watch content on television screens in a way that's much more like Netflix rather than on your mobile. These big US tech companies who are in content, and we know there are loads of them, there is a danger against the broadcasters. They could hoover up and get the audience first. I know the UK broadcasters are worried about their positioning on these connected TVs, but the broadcasters aren't producers. The producers actually could have huge opportunities if they grab them for these changes. Chaos creates opportunity sometimes, I think, and if you are dealing with Apple or Samsung or YouTube or understanding how those platforms work, whether it be short form, long form content, get on the train now. It is leaving.
Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so Matt, what skills do you need then? I mean, I know, but also not only skills, but what other aspects of your business do you need to change? Because I know you've got a studio, haven't you? Your own studio in London. That's got to be probably the first point of call, isn't it? Is creating your own studio, having your own equipment, and being able to create that content as cheaply as possible, and
maintain the quality though, cheap and good.
Yes, cheap and good, and that's very much going to be, the watchword of digital first, isn't it? It's being able to produce for many different platforms and slice and dice these different pieces of content from that central IP. So, what are the other skills do you think that a perhaps more traditional indie producer might need for to survive in this new content landscape?
And it's not just spreadsheets.
Yeah.
To be honest with you, a lot of it's very dark arts, and I'd have to kill you if I. No, you're right. Well, the skills are there's a lot of different skills. I think if you look at our business, we are used to making television, so we bring a level of production value, and I think that is important now in the growing digital market because you've really got to stand out in a crowded marketplace. So. Long of the days where digital was cheaper and a bit more, quick editing and all that kind of sort of lo-fi feel, which I think was we used to battle against a lot in the early days. These days, all you're doing now is you're seeing people really enter this market, and it's the production values are getting better and better.
So it's premium content
premium
we're talking
content,
about.
Yeah. Then you need to have internally, like we do. You've got to have things like social media experts that can do data. And you mentioned data. I love data as a creative. It gives you insight. It tells you. It leads you to what you should be creating. And
but you need that person to be able to, analyse that data because data can tell you many different things if you want it to, right?
And actually, people are, AI is a big thing on the agenda now, right? But we're using a lot of AI, not in a way that I saw that ITV were criticised this week in the press for saying they were going to use it creatively, and a lot of producers there was a backlash, and I just thought, well, I just don't know why, because it's what we're not saying is that AI is going to just suddenly make the programs and create everything that's involved in it. It still takes the human creativity to prompt it and to build it and to kind of shape it. What it's doing is helping with productivity. And enhancing things. So actually lean into those things. I also think that you've got to have the skill set of, it's a bit like when I first started in the industry a long time ago, multi-skilled operators was a thing, MSOs. And it's kind of like that in the digital space where you've got to have people that know how to light, shoot, edit, produce, all those kind of things. Because actually, what you're trying to do is get economies of scale. So you're right. We did one of the things that we did when Channel 4 invested in us 3 years ago was we used some of that investment to build our own studio. We've got a multi-camera studio. We've got a lighting grid. We've got sort of multi vision mixer, sound desk. We have the full capability of creating high quality chat shows that can be podcasts, can be TV shows. We use the studio for factual documentaries, some talking heads, those kind of things. So actually having a space and a team that is sort of like a factory, but a creative factory, allows you to create ongoing content and pump this stuff out. And then my job more specifically becomes going and selling that creative to try and find money to extend it across the other studios. Can we turn it into a TV show? Can we turn it into a podcast? Can we turn it into a digital product? So I think it's not an easy move in, but it's one of those things that does take investment and it does take expertise. But it's like Peter said, you've got to get on the train because it's leaving the station. It's like that is going to be the future of content.
Do you think that the average next generation indie is going to have a smaller headcount than a traditional factual producer? Do you think?
I'd say probably not, because I think if you look at the traditional indie model, you don't have that many people on staff, and it's a lot of freelancers. Where it might change over time. As the money shifts, it might change. It might become more like, I think I was saying to you earlier on, TV is dead, long live TV. It's just moved home. It's kind of, and got a new mortgage. And so like the money shifted. And so when and we're seeing it a lot, aren't we? In our business, we're seeing we've done more branded content this year. We've done more digital than we've ever done before this year. We've done more TV than we've ever done this year, actually. But that's because of the model allowing us to create stuff through digital and then work with distributors and pre-sales and all that kind of stuff to help us get TV series in a different way.
So those are not necessarily traditional commissions. They are, you talked about outsmarting earlier on, which is, you said, a 10 by 10 minute, I think, series for Channel 4.
Yep.
And now you've actually, at that point of shooting, you actually shot long form content.
We did. We prepped.
And so,
and for the podcast as well.
Right. Okay. So you all of that content's in the can. So you bring on a distribution partner such as Quintus.
Yep.
And now they're taking it out as a long form traditional series as an acquisition.
Yep.
To networks around the
And
world.
the key to that, and you've sort of hinted at it, is we went into shooting the 10 by 10 minutes with a view that it would become a podcast and TV show, and shot enough content to be able to do that. It's obviously very hard if you only shoot it for YouTube to come back.
Yes.
You'll have more to shoot and more cost. So getting your head around the I'll say the word again, the economics of making content in this way, I think is a partner to the creative process.
Yeah.
And the creatives need to have their accept this is the way forward. Money and creativity are overlapping a little here. So you've got to go in with the mindset that you're creating 3-4 different shows out of it, podcast, YouTube, maybe different forms of telly to different countries, and getting your production management team working with you to be able to do that. You may have to invest a little bit more in the early stages of it, but hopefully you'll get 3 or 4 different products out of the back end of it. And I think back to your question about what skills you need, in the creative world, you've got to accept the data. They're good tools for productivity, the AI and all the other bits you've got to do. But as a team, you've got to probably work a bit closer together, I think. Use the knowledge of your social media person or your marketing person with your production management and creative. Bind the team much closer together to understand the economics of it, the commercial side of it, as well as, obviously, the most important, the storytelling aspect.
Yeah.
And that storytelling needs to probably work for TikTok, to Instagram, to YouTube, to podcast, to TV.
Yeah.
And that's what the team of the future needs to be. They need to be able to blend that together in a very productive way, a team that are all singing from the same hymn sheet.
So
I think, actually, to finish on the question about staffing, to begin with, in the next few years, your teams will have to be bigger, because what you're doing is you're bringing things in-house to make it cheaper. You're bringing in post-production, you're bringing in camera operators, you're bringing in lighting, sound, you're bringing all that in-house to bring those costs down, right? But as the money shifts and quality rises, that might go back to being more like a traditional model.
Yeah.
Using freelancers, as there's a bigger freelance team.
We do both, to be fair. Like because we have the different studios, we have a core team. And then we do work with a big pool of freelancers.
And AI is probably going to be that digital assistant, play a bigger and bigger role going forward with any next generation indie, right?
Absolutely.
Just picking up on your point then, Matt. I guess anybody watching this who's more traditional indie, and you were talking about when the money shifts. When's the money going to shift?
It's shifting. I mean, actually, the other area which I think is interesting, maybe less relevant to your core audience at the moment, but we work in branded content, and a number of TV producers do, but we're also noticing the traditional TV commercial producers, their content is shifting from telly to digital, which is creating an opportunity for TV producers to be commercials producer at the same time.
So you're talking about commercials that are specifically shot for digital as opposed to TV.
Absolutely. And I think that money's shifted already as media agencies and creative agencies in the traditional commercial marketing area their clients want their content on social media and YouTube and on telly, but less so in the commercial breaks. I mean, there's still a great business of creating commercials in the breaks, but there's a bigger business growing on digital platforms because the brands want to push it through their owned and operated social media accounts or through the talent accounts they're working with to get different reach and engagement with their audience. So we're seeing, I guess, different types of business converging a little, whether you're coming at it from TV commercial production or TV production or digital production. We're now all in the same melting pot.
There's an explosion of brands moving into TV type digital content. So we make, as Peter said, we make a lot of branded content, which is kind of sort of TVC ad-like content, and then we might make branded entertainment series, which has a bit more of a TV format to it. But what we are seeing is look at the sudden shift of things like Waitrose with Dish as a pod, which is topping the charts regularly. M&S is now in with their Tom Kerridge pub format. You've got Timotei coming into the market. We work with a number of brands in that space, and I think what we're seeing now is that brands can start. It wouldn't surprise me if you saw M&S launch as a streamer at some point in the future.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, we're already seeing Starbucks create their own studios, Chick-fil-A in the States.
Yeah.
Red Bull is obviously the master of branded content.
Of course.
And this is a shift of brands being consumer brands, becoming entertainment brands.
And they're becoming broadcasters. So for to be a digital first indie, you've got to have the skill sets that you can sell to them and say, yes, we can make this content, but we also know how to market it. Through social media. And that's the thing in our business that we've always said. When we first set up all those years ago, we were ahead of the curve. And so that's why we're excited now, because it's finally what we set up to do is finally actually happening in the industry. And actually what we always said was, you've got to make great programs, and you've got to be able to make them on any platform, because that's where the audience will demand it. But then you've got to know how to market those shows. You've got to be good at the social media. You've got to be good at the PR. You've got to be good at creating that buzz around your shows. And your formats and your ideas themselves have to have that integrated, and that's where the data comes in.
Yeah.
Because then you know what is going to be relatable and hooky about your show that is going to make it do well.
All right. Well, fascinating stuff, guys. Thank you so much for joining us. Matt, you're going to be talking at the Telecast Digital Content Forum on the 7th of November, aren't you? And you're going to give us a bit of a case study of Outsmarted and how you went around that. Can you just give us a taste of what you're going to be talking about on the day?
Yeah. So, we've talked about it already today, but essentially I'm going to sort of step the audience through how we've gone about getting an original commission that was digital first, and then extending it through to audio and then through to television, and how we got a distributor on board to make that happen. I also want to talk about how production companies can become self-commissioners and self-distributors. It's something that we have an ambition for in the future. I mean, don't get me wrong, working with the right partners for the right projects is always key, I think. But there is a point where actually you could, with your own investment, self-commission and then sell to market to then get the pre-sales to turn stuff into a TV show. And then you become self-sufficient. But on the flip side of that, I will also talk about how that is difficult to do, because, working with commissioners is a great thing, because commissioners give you the rub. They give you the sounding board, and they create the tension in a thing, which for me often makes a program better. So it's about if you're going to do that internally, how do you do that?
Yeah, well, there's going to be quite a few commissioners who are probably self-employed over the next 6 months, so maybe there's a role there for commissioners as independent consultants.
Absolutely,
100%.
absolutely.
Yeah, get in touch.
Today we're diving into one of the most exciting new dramas hitting the market, The Crow Girl, produced by Buccaneer for Paramount Plus and distributed internationally by ITV Studios. Based on the best-selling Scandinavian noir novel, this intense psychological thriller promises to captivate audiences worldwide. Joining me today are two key figures behind the project. First, we have Richard Tulk-Hart, joint CEO of Buccaneer, whose vision and leadership, alongside Buccaneer's other CEO, Tony Wood, are driving this adaptation forward. And alongside him, we're thrilled to have rock legend Slash, who brings his unique creative talents as exec producer and musical contributor to the series. Richard, Slash, thanks both for being here. Great to see you.
Hi.
How are you? How are you doing, guys? Are you well?
All good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
No, good.
Good. Okay, so let's dive straight in and talk about what makes The Crow Girl so special. It's based on a best-selling novel written by Erik Axel Sund, which is a pen name for two Scandinavians, Jerker Eriksson and Håkan Axlander. Can you give us a brief overview, Richard, of the show and the cast and what makes the story stand out?
Sure. So the show stars Eve Miles, Catherine Kelly, and Dougray Scott. There's so much to this show, but we've got a limited amount of time. So in short, the bodies of young men start stacking up in public places in the UK. And DCI Kirkland, played by Eve Miles, and Sophia Craven, played by Catherine Kelly, who plays a psychotherapist, come together in order to try and work out what's going on and find a murderer. So over 6 episodes in season 1, the implication being seasons 2 and beyond, of course, I've got to say that. There's a number of themes in cover-ups, in lies, in abuse, and many of these are themes that run through the police force. So as Kirkland and Craven get closer to uncovering who the murderer is, the murderer also gets much closer to us. I think it's the sort of combination of the storytelling, the writing. Millie Thomas, who's a superb writer of the show, along with a number of other writers in a room with her, the location, and of course the music.
Well, Slash, let's talk about the music. Well, actually, let's take a step back from that to the genesis of the project. So how did you first of all get involved in this? Because this is something you brought to Buccaneer and spoke to Buccaneer around originally.
Right. Well, so I've been in the sort of movie and TV producer sandbox for a few years, and I'm always looking for new material.
Today we're diving into one of the most exciting new dramas hitting the market, The Crow Girl, produced by Buccaneer for Paramount Plus and distributed internationally by ITV Studios. Based on the best-selling Scandinavian noir novel, this intense psychological thriller promises to captivate audiences worldwide. Joining me today are 2 key figures behind the project. First, we have Richard Tulk-Hart, joint CEO of Buccaneer, whose vision and leadership, alongside Buccaneer's other CEO, Tony Wood, are driving this adaptation forward. And alongside him, we're thrilled to have rock legend Slash, who brings his unique creative talents as exec producer and musical contributor to the series. Richard, Slash, thanks both for being here. Great to see you.
Hi.
How are you? How are you doing, guys? Are you well?
All good. Yeah.
Yeah.
Excellent.
No, good.
Good. Okay, so let's dive straight in and talk about what makes The Crow Girl so special. It's based on a best-selling novel written by Erik Axel Sund, which is a pen name for two Scandinavians, Jerker Eriksson and Håkan Axlander. Can you give us a brief overview, Richard, of the show and the cast and what makes the story stand out?
Sure. So the show stars Eve Miles, Catherine Kelly, and Dougray Scott. There's so much to this show, but we've got a limited amount of time. So in short, the bodies of young men start stacking up in public places in the UK. And DCI Kirkland, played by Eve Miles, and Sophia Craven, played by Catherine Kelly, who plays a psychotherapist, come together in order to try and work out what's going on and find a murderer. So over 6 episodes in season 1, the implication being seasons 2 and beyond, of course, I've got to say that. There's a number of themes in cover-ups, in lies, in abuse, and many of these are themes that run through the police force. So as Kirkland and Craven get closer to uncovering who the murderer is, the murderer also gets much closer to us. I think it's sort of combination of the storytelling, the writing, Millie Thomas, who's a superb writer of the show, along with a number of other writers in a room with her, the location, and of course the music.
Well, Slash, let's talk about the music. Well, actually, let's take a step back from that to the genesis of the project. So how did you first of all get involved in this? Because this is something you brought to Buccaneer and spoke to Buccaneer around originally.
Right. Well, so I've been in the sort of movie and TV producer sandbox for a few years. And I'm always looking for new material. And I went to my literary agent and asked her what she always give me new stuff and whatnot. And she came to me with The Crow Girl, and she said, "Got to read this. It's really good." And so I loved it. And she said, "There's a guy named Nicholas in Sweden who's sort of her counterpart, Swedish counterpart, and he's representing this book." So I got in touch with him, and we pursued selling it. And next thing you know, Buccaneer came up, and I'm very familiar with Buccaneer because they've got some shows I'm really fond of, and so they took an interest in it, and that's how it started.
Yeah. Well, they seem to be the perfect production partner.
I was so happy that, if nobody else had come to the table, just having them, be interested was great.
Yeah, of course, because Buccaneer responsible for Crime and Marcella.
Yeah.
So what is it about when you read the novel? What is it about the novel that that really sort of sucked you in? If you like?
Well, I'm a horror and thriller. That's my bag, and this particular story had to have been one of the most darkest cop stories that I'd read in a long time, and it has a lot of. I mean, not until the very end do you really find out what's going on. It's a really great twisty tale, and the characters are great, and it's very original as far as the subject matter. I'm not going to get into that because the disassociative, all that stuff. Anyway, but yeah, and so I it's just one of those things that spoke to me.
Okay, and now MIPCOM, Richard, is obviously one of the most important markets in the world for television content. What makes The Crow Girl particularly suited to an international audience?
Well, I think it touches on a number of themes that is nothing to do with any one particular country, whether it's family, mental health, immigration, corruption at institutional level. And those things are always a good bedrock for anything that's going to sell around the world and be relatable. I mean, the key is it's got to be relatable. With any show, and at Buccaneer we always go on about this, any show, you've got to have emotion, you've got to have great acting, and that really comes in spades in this show with the cast that we've got and with Millie's writing and the response that the actors had to that. And so when it comes to how other countries view what they want to buy, whether it's in the English language or other languages, particularly if somebody is going to be watching a show in a foreign language, for many people English is a foreign language, and either they pick it up as a dub or a sub or whatever it may be, if the acting is good, the story is good, people see through all of that. It's a thing of the past now. I mean, Netflix really did a great job on allowing us to not be stuck to a show that is in our own language. And this show originated from Scandinavian writers and a Scandinavian book, and it's translated really well over to being set over here. But all of those points that I make about what makes a good show, if they're in there, and genuinely I feel they are in there in spades in this show, it comes through for any audience wherever they are. So I think ITV Studios will have a very easy time selling this. No pressure, ITV Studios.
Right. Well, it's a psychological police procedural thriller. And there's lots of complex material, as Slash mentioned, within the show. How do you go about adapting that for television and making it accessible? Or do you not? Do you not try and make it accessible? Do you just stick as close as you can to that source material?
I mean, the books are, it's a trilogy of books. I mean, in the US and UK, it was released as one book, but the book itself on first reading, Tony Wood, my business partner, and I really scratched our heads a little bit about how you go about adapting this for TV, because it did need a lot of work. And, Tony, along with Katie Barrett on our team at Buccaneer, went about pulling it apart with Millie Thomas and a team of female writers in a way that, it was definitely the most complicated one we've ever done.
Yeah, it's a very dense book.
Yeah.
There's a lot of different stories all going on at the same time, and so I think Tony and Millie as well did a great job, sort of simplifying it enough so that it was easy to sort of put into episodes. you
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And I think equally at a moment in time where the industry is, it's had a rough ride. Whichever side of the business you're on, whether it's distribution, production, whatever, it's been a tough time, and a lot of people are playing safer bets at the moment than necessarily the Kroger is. So for Paramount and ITV Studios to see what it could be was refreshing. I mean, they've been great partners from the beginning, allowing us to and trusting us to take this story and do with it as we did, and having Slash as a partner and exec producer on it, and knowing what the music was going to be alongside Lorne Balfe, it plays a huge part in this show. More than most shows we've worked on, the music is a really important part.
Yeah, well, let's talk about the music, Slash. I mean, how did you approach writing and scoring? And let's talk about Lorne Balfe's involvement as well, and how you're both approaching the overall soundtrack.
I was really interested in the score, but at the same time, I knew that I didn't have time to commit to composing an entire score. So Tony introduced me to Lorne, and Lorne's done pretty much all of the Buccaneer programs.
Yeah.
And so he and I got together, and he really, he's phenomenal. And so he sort of took on the lion's share of scoring the entire show. And then I just started contributing pieces of music. So I would write on the road and then send them to him, and he would sort of find the right, I was just writing to the script, and he would write it into the scenes. And then there was a theme song that is really good that I contributed to as well. And so it was just, it's such a moody piece, and he put this great bedrock down for me to be able to sort of bounce off of and put my ideas into.
Yeah. So what it was interesting you say there, you were writing to the script. Mm-hmm. I mean, even before you saw the script and actually thinking back to the actual novel, did you have a mood in mind?
It's I get musical ideas from books and stories and as well as scripts. So I can read something and start to imagine a musical, sort of a melody for that. And that started pretty early on. So when I started working with Lorne, I had some definite ideas already.
And has that changed? Because presumably you're starting to see bits of the production now, and I know you've been on set. Has that changed your approach to the music as the project's developed?
It doesn't really change the melody so much, but I think more importantly, when I start to hear what the instrumentation is that Lorne's doing, then it starts to change the idea of the certain sounds that you're going to use. It's hard to explain, but and when you actually see something, you just start to get more ideas, or there's a little bit more depth to the ideas that you get.
Yeah.
Okay.
And will we ever will it see the light of day in its own right, do you think, maybe one day?
I don't know. That's a good question. I mean, the theme song is great, and I think I have a feeling that they're going to want to do something with that, because it's a song in its entirety, and it's really cool. As far as the soundtrack to the show, that's hard to say, but we'll pitch for it.
Yeah. All right. Okay. Well, watch this space. Now, Richard, given the popularity of Scandi noir in recent years, how does The Crow Girl fit into the Scandi noir genre? Does it? I mean, obviously it does, because it's come from a Scandinavian home and two amazing writers.
Yeah, that's a tough one. Look, there are nods to Scandinavian noir in it. I think that pulling it out of Scandinavia itself and over to the UK gives it a freshness, and Millie's writing gives it a freshness that I wouldn't label it a Scandi noir, but a fan of Scandi noir would love this. Yes. But I think it sits as at the end, it's a psychological crime thriller based around a police procedural that is unmistakably set in the UK, with international themes. Yeah, you've got me on this one. I think it's there's nods to the noir area.
Yeah. Okay. So fans of Scandi noir will enjoy it, but perhaps it's wrong to categorise it as a Scandinavian noir.
Probably as a producer you're going to say this, but I feel it's probably got a wider audience than necessarily Scandinavian noir did. I think it goes beyond that. I could see my 80-year-old mum enjoying this, and she wouldn't enjoy Scandinavian noir.
Right, okay. Okay. Well, let's take the opportunity to have a quick look at the Crow Girl.
Hello? Are you there?
Traced a recruitment consultant in his early 30s, Steve Cooper, no record of any kind. On his way in now for interview.
Have we run the profile through MPU?
No one matching his description has been reported missing.
No specific identifying characteristics to narrow down a search that wide. Don't know his heritage, could be fucking anyone.
Age?
16, 20 at a push.
We should contact Child Protection. See if he matches anyone. He might have just slipped through the cracks.
Why wouldn't anyone want to report their own child missing?
Well, it might be a foreign national.
Could be.
Or could be a refugee, holidaymaker, traveller, so...
Maybe they don't know they're missing at all.
What if he's vulnerable?
Well, of course he's vulnerable, Mike. He's dead and nobody's reported him missing. Right, I want all CCTV within half of my radius. I'm talking buses, shops, camera doorbells, the works, okay? And you lot, I want you door knocking down Broad Street and Taylor Court, Corn Street. I need a full picture on this. Somebody has left a body in a public place. They want him found. I want to know why. See, the thing is, Lou, you know I'm going to ask to see that, and I know it's going to be a shit meme. Why would you interrupt a murder inquiry with a shit meme? Was it funny, Mike? Was it a shit meme, Mike?
I didn't get it.
Prick.
I didn't.
Okay, let's have a look.
I was just...
Let's have a look!
Okay, Jeanette, point made. Fuck's sake.
Oh, wow, look at that. Okay. Wow. Okay, well, explain it to him. I mean, that's how the best jokes work, right?
Mike, I swear to God. It's Carol Lowry. The dentist who was booked this morning for unholy amounts of child in porn.
Possession and distribution of child abuse images. No. That you were up to speed, Mike. Is that funny? No, it isn't, is it? You get used to him. And if you're going to interrupt me, at least make it fucking funny. Maybe swap out Instagram for news, okay? I want every inch of that bag checked, you understand?
Yeah. Forensics are doing tests as we speak. Eva said that the liquid on the bag is probably piss. Well, she said it smelled like piss anyway.
So the show obviously has these dark psychological elements to it, Slash. How do you think it's going to balance that intensity with entertainment as well? Because at the end of the day, you know, this is in an entertainment medium. And how will it entertain without perhaps overwhelming?
Well, I mean, the brilliance of this show is it is dark and foreboding in a lot of ways, but it's cast so well and the writing's so good. It's really entertaining. It's very engaging, and some of the subject matter is a little, it's a little disturbing, but it's sort of balanced out by the way that it's projected.
Yeah.
So it's not off-putting.
Yeah.
Particularly, I think, the characters played by Eve Miles and Dougray Scott, the writing has a bit of levity to both of those characters, and Eve and Dougray's comic timing is very good. I mean, it's certainly not a comedy, but the way they bounce off each other can sometimes pull you away from the dark subjects that Slash was referring to, which, there is a few in there.
Yeah, and there's a lot of personal stories that are going on at the same time. So it sort of gives a little bit of, it brings it home a little bit.
Yeah. So it's airing on Paramount Plus in early 2025. You touched on it earlier, Richard. Is there scope for further spin-offs or further series?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we are left with an absolute whopper of a cliffhanger on the end of season 1, and the stories from the books allow us to go further. I think if you wanted to go on and on with this, you could, but certainly it's left with viewers will be wanting a season 2.
And Slash, so after The Crow Girl, are you planning any more TV and film projects? Is there something on the horizon for you?
I have a couple film projects that are in development, and one of them that's about to come out next year. So that production's done already. So I'm still, I'm very much into this. As far as TV is concerned, I was fortunate to, be able to work with Buccaneer. It's really the first TV production that I've done.
And then finally, for the buyers watching this at MIPCOM, what would you say is the one admissible reason why they should buy The Crow Girl for their viewers?
Because it's good. It's really good, and it's the cast is great. It's really, like I was saying before, it's really well written. It's a very well thought out presentation. you know, it's very entertaining. I watched it all the way through up until it was finally edited and everything in colors, and I was like, this is really a good show. So there you go.
All right, you would watch it even if you weren't involved.
I've been watching it just for the enjoyment of watching it. I've played it for a couple of people, my girlfriend at home and stuff like that. Going, check this out. And it's really good. People who didn't know what it was or like that have seen it have been like, oh, this is amazing. Yeah.
All right. Slash, Richard, thank you so much for joining me on this week's special telecast for MIPCOM. Good luck with the show, and good luck to ITV Studios with selling it at the market.
Right. Cheers.
Thanks.
Well, that's about it from our MIPCOM Day 3 highlight show. To check out other videos featuring the movers and shakers of the content industry, including days 1 and 2 of MIPCOM, just hit subscribe. Thanks for watching.